Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I am here to bring you a battle between the 2018 Challenger decks versus the Face the Hydra Challenge deck from Theros. We'll be playing on normal difficulty with 3 heads and then hard mode with 4. And we will each be using 2 hero cards. I only have 1 copy of each, so we're going to apply the Harvester as though it applied to all of the decks simultaneously, and that says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Over here we have Hazard Aggro, and they're going to be using the Hunter. It says tap, target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Second Sun Control will be using the Protector. It says tap, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. We have the Warrior with Vehicle Rush over here, and it says tap, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. And then we have the Avenger over there with Counter Surge, and that says 3 tap, target creature you control gains death touch until end of turn. We'll begin the game with 7 cards apiece. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain, a Harsh Mentor, Sunscorched Desert, Shock, Soulscar Mage, and Shock. I do kind of wish we had a little bit more active creatures here, but I think this will still work, so we will keep it. Second Sun's Control draws a Plains, Opt, Aether Meltdown, Glimmer of Genius, Field of Ruin, Plains, and Ipnu Rivulet. This is not an ideal hand, but I guess we have our colors, and so we can get started with this. Counter Surge draws a Glint Sleeve Siphoner, Forest Scrappy Scrounger, Long Tusk Cub, Dream Stealer, and Windy Constrictor. We're short on black mana here, and so we're gonna ship this and go for another 7 because this is multiplayer. Their second hand has a Glint Sleeve Siphoner, a Swamp, Aether Hub, Windy Constrictor, Long Tusk Cub, and Gonti, Lord of Luxury. This is not ideal because we are short on green mana, but I think we still keep this with the hopes of using the Harvester to get to what we need. Vehicle Rush draws a Bowmet Courier, Concealed Courtyard, Heart of Quran, Spire of Industry, Heart of Quran, Spire of Industry, and a Scrap Heap Scrounger. I think this is okay, even if we don't have any red here because of the Spires of Industry, so we will keep this hand as well. Turn 1, we each draw a card. Hazard Aggro draws a Fanatical Firebrand. Second Sun Control draws an Irrigated Farmland. Counter Surge draws an Hour of Glory. Vehicle Rush draws an Unclaimed Territory. Hazard Aggro will play a Mountain. We'll tap the Mountain and cast a Soulscar Mage. It is a 1/2 human wizard with prowess. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead. Second Sun Control will play the Irrigated Farmland tapped. Counter Surge will play the Swamp, and Vehicle Rush will play the Concealed Courtyard. It says that it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands. That's true. And then we'll tap 1, and we will play the Bowmat Courier. It is a 1/1 construct. With haste, whenever Bowmat Courier attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. And then for red, you can discard your hand, sacrifice Bowmat Courier, put all the cards exiled with Bowmat Courier into their owner's hands. And then we'll pass turn to the Hydra. The Hydra casts the topmost card, which is Strike the Weak Spot, destroy target head. If that head was elite, the Hydra takes an extra turn after this one. We don't have any elite heads to destroy, so we'll destroy this head here. This will cause us to gain 2 life apiece. We'll lose 2 here, so we won't do anything. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is a Ravenous Brute head. And so we will gain 2 each, but we'll lose 2 from these, and then we'll lose an additional 2 from the Ravenous Brute head, taking us down to 18 apiece. Second Sun Control will tap the Protector to prevent 1 damage to only go down to 19. At the end of the Hydra's turn, we'll use the Harvester. Hazard Aggro will draw a Sunscorched Desert, and we'll discard the Sunscorched Desert. Second Sun Control will draw a Field of Ruin and discard the Field of Ruin. Counter Surge will draw a Swamp and discard the Hour of Glory. Vehicle Rush will draw an Aether Hub, and we will discard the Unclaimed Territory. We'll untap. We'll draw. Hazard Aggro draws a Magma Spray. Second Sun Control draws a Glimmer of Genius. Counter Surge draws a Gonti, Lord of Luxury. Vehicle Rush draws a Mountain. Hazard Aggro will play a Mountain. We'll tap 1 red mana and cast a Fanatical Firebrand. It is a 1/1 Goblin Pirate with haste. You can tap and sacrifice it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Second Sun Control will play a Plains. Counter Surge will play a Swamp. We'll tap both of these to play a Glint Sleeve Siphoner. It is a 2/1 human rogue with Menace. Whenever Glint Sleeve Siphoner enters the battlefield with attacks, you get 1 energy. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, draw a card and you lose 1 life. We will track energy with this die here. We'll be at 1. We'll play a Mountain, and then we'll tap 2 mana and play the Scrap Heap Scrounger. It is a 3/2 construct. It can't block, and for 1 and a black, exile another creature card in your graveyard and return Scrap Heap Scrounger from your graveyard to the battlefield. We will tap the warrior to give it haste, and then we will attack. The Scrounger and the Courier will attack the Ravenous Brutehead. The Fanatical Firebrand and the Skull Scar Mage will join in on that attack, and together they will defeat the Ravenous Brutehead. When it dies, each player will gain 2 life and draw a card. We'll be all going back up to 20, except for Second Zone Control, which will go to 21. We will draw a card each. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain. Second Zone Control draws an Irrigated Farmland. Counter Surge draws a Forest. Vehicle Rush draws an Unclaimed Territory. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is 1 new Hydra head. And then we will pass to the Hydra. Second Zone Control has to discard down to 7 at the end of the turn, so we will discard the Aether Meltdown. The Hydra casts a Timeless card, which is Swallow the Hero Whole. Each player exiles a creature he or she controls until the Hydra's next turn. When a head leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. So we will exile the Bomat Courier, we will exile the Fanatical Firebrand, and we'll exile the Glint Sleeve Siphoner. And then the Hydra will deal 3 damage to each player. Second Zone Control will tap the Protector to reduce damage to Counter Surge by 1, taking Second Zone Control and Counter Surge down to 18, while Hazard Aggro and Vehicle Rush go down to 17. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Hazard Aggro draws a Sunscorched Desert and will discard the Sunscorched Desert. Second Zone Control draws a Settle the Wreckage and will discard the Settle the Wreckage. Counter Surge draws a Walk the Plank, and we will discard 1 Gaunty Lord of Luxury. Vehicle Rush draws a Sky Sovereign Consul Flagship, and we will discard the Unclaimed Territory. We'll untap. At the end of the last turn, we will use Opt. It says scry 1, then draw a card. We'll take Supreme Will, and we'll keep that. We'll draw that. We'll draw. Hazard Aggro draws a Lightning Strike. Second Zone Control draws a Plains. Counter Surge draws a Forest. Vehicle Rush draws an Aether Sphere Harvester. We'll play the Mountain. We'll spend 2 mana and cast Lightning Strike, targeting 1 of the Hydra heads. This will defeat the Hydra head. We'll each gain 2 life to go to 19 for Vehicle Rush and Hazard Aggro, and 20 for Second Zone Control and Counter Surge. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is a Snapping Fang head. Swallow the Hero Whole will finish, and each player will get back their creature. Vehicle Rush gets back the Bomat Courier. Hazard Aggro gets back the Fanatical Firebrand. Counter Surge gets back the Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and that will give us another energy. Second Zone Control will play a Plains. We'll play the Forest, and then we'll tap the Forest and the Swamp to play the Winding Constrictor. It's a 2/3 snake, and it says if 1 or more counters be placed on an artifact or creature you control, that many of those counters plus 1 are placed on that permanent instead. If you would get 1 or more counters, you get that many of those counters plus 1 instead. Vehicle Rush will play the Spire of Industry. Then we'll spend 2 mana over here to cast the Heart of Quran. It is a 4/4 legendary vehicle with flying and vigilance, and crew 3. You may remove a loyalty counter from a planeswalker you control rather than pay the Heart of Quran's crew cost. We will tap the Scrap Heap Scrounger to crew the Heart of Quran, and then we'll tap the warrior to give it haste. We will attack with the Heart of Quran, the Bomat Courier, which will exile a card. I think it should have exiled another one before, so we'll exile the second one. Into the Snapping Fang head. We'll also attack into the Snapping Fang head with the Fanatical Firebrand and the Soul Scar Mage, tapping the Hunter to make it a total of 8 power between them. This defeats the Snapping Fang head. Each player will gain 4 life taking the aggro decks up to 23 and the mid-range and control deck up to 24. We'll each draw a card. Hazard Aggro draws Karizev Skyship Raider. Second Son Control draws an Opt. Counter Surge draws a Forest. Vehicle Rush draws a Bowmat Courier. We'll reveal 2 cards from the Hydra's deck to see if there are any new heads. There are no new heads. Vehicle Rush will tap the Concealed Courtyard to play a Bowmat Courier, and will pass the turn to the Hydra. At the end of the turn, Second Son Control will discard. They'll discard a Field of Ruin. Second Son Control draws an Irrigated Farmland. Counter Surge draws a Blossoming Defense. Vehicle Rush draws a Mountain. We'll play this Mountain. We'll tap 2 and play Karizev Skyship Raider. She is a 1/3 first strike Menace Human Pirate. Whenever Karizev Skyship Raider attacks, create a legendary 2/1 red monkey creature token named Ragavan that's tapped and attacking. Exile that token at the end of combat. We'll also spend another 1 and cast Fanatical Firebrand. Fanatical Firebrand has haste, so we can attack. Second Son Control will just play an island. Counter Surge will play a forest. Vehicle Rush will play a Spire of Industry. They'll spend 3 mana to cast the Paula Pilot Exemplar. She's a 3/3 legendary creature dwarf pilot. Other dwarves you control get +1/+1. Each vehicle you control gets +1/+1 as long as it's a creature. Whenever the Paula Legendary Pilot becomes tapped, you may pay X. If you do, reveal the top X cards of your library and put all dwarf and vehicle cards from among them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. We'll go to attacks. The Paula will tap and will decline to use her ability to crew the Heart of Quran, and then we will attack with Bowmat Couriers, the Scrap Heap Scrounger. The Scrap Heap Scrounger will run into the Ravenous Brutehead along with the Bowmat Couriers. We'll exile a card each for the Bowmat Couriers. The Heart of Quran and the Bowmat Couriers will attack the Ravenous Brutehead, and the Scrap Heap Scrounger will go after one Hydra Head. One of the Fanatical Firebrands will go after the other Hydra Head, and the Glint Sleeve Siphoner will finish off that Hydra Head with the Fanatical Firebrand. When it attacks, we'll gain 1 plus another counter to go up to 4 energy counters. This will defeat every Hydra Head. We'll gain 6 life apiece and draw a card. This will take all the decks up to 26 except for Hazard Aggro, who will go up to 25. Hazard Aggro draws a card, gets a Fanatical Firebrand. We'll cast the Fanatical Firebrand. Second Son Control draws a Glimmer of Genius. Counter Surge draws an Aether Hub. Vehicle Rush draws an Inspiring Vantage. Then we'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. There's 1 new Hydra Head. On our second main step, Counter Surge will tap out and cast both Longtusk Cubs. They are 2/2 cats with whenever Longtusk Cub deals combat damage to a player, you get 2 energy, and then you would pay 2 energy to put a +1/+1 counter on Longtusk Cub. We'll end the turn discarding the Irrigated Farmland. The Hydra casts a topmost card, which is a Savage Figurehead. At the beginning of the Hydra's end step, reveal the top card of the Hydra's library, and the Hydra casts that card. Second Son Control will respond by tapping a blue and a white, and then casting Censor. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. Savage Figurehead is countered, and then the remaining Hydra Head will deal 1 damage to each player. Second Son Control will tap the Protector to protect Hazard Aggro, meaning that each player will go down to 25. Hazard Aggro will remain unchanged. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain, and we will discard the Mountain. Second Son Control draws an Aether Meltdown. We'll discard the Aether Meltdown. Counter Surge draws a Winding Constrictor, and we will discard Blooming Defense. Vehicle Rush draws a Plains, and we will discard the Inspiring Vantage. We'll untap. On upkeep, we will pay 2 energy. To draw a card, we get a Hashep Oasis, and then we'll lose 1 life to go down to 24. We'll draw. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain. We'll play the Mountain. Second Son Control draws a Censor. Counter Surge draws a Swamp. Vehicle Rush draws a Depala Pilot Exemplar. We'll play the Plains. We'll spend all 5 mana and play Sky Sovereign Console Flagship. It's a 6/5 flying legendary artifact vehicle. Whenever Sky Sovereign Console Flagship enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. It'll deal 3 damage to the Hydra head. The Hydra head dies. We'll all gain 2 life to go up to 27, except for Counter Surge, which will go up to 26. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is a Ravenous Broodhead. Counter Surge will play a Swamp, and then we'll tap a green and a black to play another Winding Constrictor. Hazard Aggro will tap 2 and play the Harsh Mentor. It is a 2/2 Human Cleric. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. That will have no impact on this game. It's just a 2/2 for our purposes. We'll go to combat, and we will attack the Ravenous Broodhead with the Glintsleeve Siphoner and both Longtusk Cubs. They're all going to do damage, and this will cause us to get 2 energy from the Glintsleeve Siphoner, going up to 4. And then we'll get 8 energy from both Longtusk Cubs to go up to 12 energy apiece. And we will defeat the Ravenous Broodhead. Each player will gain 4 life to go up to 31, except for Counter Surge, which will go up to 30. Hazard Aggro draws a card, gets an On-Cop Crasher. Second Sun Control gets an Opt. Counter Surge gets an Aether Hub. Vehicle Rush gets a Cultivator's Caravan. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is 1 new Hydra head. Hazard Aggro will tap 3 and play an On-Crop Crasher. It is a 3/2 Minotaur Warrior with haste, and you may exert On-Crop Crasher as it attacks when you do. Target creature can't block this turn. It won't matter because no creatures block in this deck. We'll play an Ipnu Revulet over here, and then we'll end the turn. We'll go to the Hydra. The Hydra casts the topmost card, which is a Hydra head. That'll jump onto the battlefield, and then each player will take 2 damage, taking them all down to 29. Second Sun Control will tap the Protectors, so that Counter Surge only takes 1 damage, which means that each player will go down to 29. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester to loot. Hazard Aggro draws a mountain and discards the mountain. At the end of the turn, we'll spend 4 mana and cast Glimmer of Genius. It is a instant, says scry 2, then draw 2 cards, you get 2 energy. We'll scry these 2, and we will put both of these at the bottom of the deck. We'll draw 2 cards, we get these 2, and then we will draw another card, which is a Supreme Will. We will discard the Plains. Counter Surge will draw a Blossoming Defense and discard that. Vehicle Rush will draw a Plains, and we will discard the Paula. We'll untap. We'll spend 2 energy with the Glintsleeve Siphoner to go down to 10 energy. We'll draw a card, and that'll get us a Foul Orchard. We'll lose a life to go down to 28. Hazard Aggro draws a Kari Zeb Skyship Raider. Second Sun Control draws a Farm to Market. Counter Surge draws a Foul Orchard. Vehicle Rush draws a Veteran Motorist. We'll play a Mountain. We'll tap a Mountain and a Plains to cast the Veteran Motorist. We'll tap 3 more mana to cast the Cultivator's Caravan. It is a 5/5 vehicle. You can tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you can crew for 3. Second Sun Control will play the Island. Counter Surge will play a /tap Oasis. It is a land which can tap for colorless. Tap, pay 1 to add green to your mana pool, and then 1 green, sacrifice a desert target creature, gets +3/+3 until end of turn. We will attack both of the heads with the Longtusk Cubs. We'll pay 4 total energy to go down to 6 to put a +1/+1 counter on each of these cubs. That should be enough to kill both of the Hydra heads. They both die. Each player will gain 4 life to go up to 33, while Counter Surge goes up to 32. We'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is a Shrieking Titan head. It says at the beginning of the Hydra's end step, each player discards a card. We'll gain 8 energy because of the Longtusk Cubs and the Binding Constrictors to go up to 14 energy. And then on our second main phase, we'll tap both swamps and we'll cast Walk the Plank, targeting the Shrieking Titan head to destroy target non-merfolk creature. Shrieking Titan head goes down. We'll each gain 4 life to go up to 37 apiece, except for Counter Surge, which will go up to 36. Hazard Aggro draws a Lightning Strike. Second Sun Control draws an Island. Counter Surge draws a Long Tusk Cub. Vehicle Rush draws a Scrap Heap Scrounger. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are no new heads, and the 2018 Challenger decks defeat the Hydra. We'll be right back for hard mode. We are back for hard mode. We have 4 Hydra heads here. We put the library down here and the graveyard down here for ease of use. We'll go ahead and get started with 7 cards apiece. Hazard Aggro draws Carry Zev, Skyship Raider, Mountain, Lightning Strike, Mountain, Mountain, Harsh Mentor, Mountain. It's not that good of a hand, but I guess we'll keep this anyways. Second Sun Control draws a Sensor, Approach to the Second Sun Island, Approach to the Second Sun. If New Rivulet, Farm, and Plains is kind of a dead hand, and so we will mulligan. Now we've drawn an Aether Meltdown, Plains, Cast Out, Sensor, Island, Supreme Will, and Irrigated Farmland. I think this is a keepable hand, so we will do so. Counter Surge draws a Forest, Dream Stealer, Swamp, Swamp, Walking Ballista, Verdus, Gearhulk, and Swamp. It's a bit of a slow hand. We'll recycle this. Now we have an Aether Hub, Long Tusk Cub, Walking Ballista, Long Tusk Cub, Forest, Gonti, Lord of Luxury, and Aether Hub. We don't have a second black mana, but I think we can keep this, so we will. Vehicle Rush draws a Depala, Pilot Exemplar, Pia Nalar, Dragon Skull Summit, Plains, Bomat, Courier, Spire of Industry, and Depala, Pilot Exemplar. I think this is fine to keep. Turn 1 will draw. We get another Carry Zev Skyship Raider over here. Second Sun Control gets a Glimmer of Genius. Counter Surge gets a Dream Stealer. Vehicle Rush gets a Spire of Industry. We will play the Plains. We'll tap the Plains and play a Bomat Courier. We'll play a Mountain over here. We'll play the Irrigated Farmland tapped over here. We'll play the Forest over here. We'll pass to the Hydra. The Hydra casts the topmost card. This is a Snapping Fanghead. It deals 1 extra damage at the end of the turn. So we'll take a total of 7 damage this turn. Second Sun Control will use a Protector to protect itself, so it'll only take 6 damage, going down to 14 while everybody else goes down to 13. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Hazard Aggro draws a Bomat Courier. We'll discard a Carry Zev. Second Sun Control will draw an Aether Meltdown and discard the Aether Meltdown. Counter Surge will draw Dream Stealer and will discard the Dream Stealer. Vehicle Rush will draw another Depala. We'll discard the Depala. We'll untap. We'll draw. Hazard Aggro draws a Lightning Strike. We'll play a Mountain. Second Sun Control draws an Island. We'll play the Island. Counter Surge draws a Gonti, Lord of Luxury. We'll play an Aether Hub. We'll get an Energy. Vehicle Rush will draw a Bomat Courier. We'll play the Spire of Industry. We'll tap the Spire of Industry to play the Bomat Courier. We'll spend 1 mana over here to play a Bomat Courier. We'll go to attacks. Bomat Courier will attack into one of the Hydra heads. These 2 Bomat Couriers will also attack into Hydra heads. We'll exile cards. We will kill 1 Hydra head. This will give everybody 2 life, taking us all back up to 15, except for Second Sun Control, which will go up to 16. And then we'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. We have a Savage Vigor head in the mix. That's the one that casts an extra card on its turn, so I don't think we're going to make it this time. Counter Surge will spend 2 and play the Long Tusk Cub. Then we'll go to the Hydra's turn. They'll cast the topmost card, which is a Disorienting Blower. Players can't cast spells until the Hydra's next turn. Second Sun Control will tap both mana and cast Sensor, countering that. Disorienting Blower is countered. We'll go to the end step, we'll cast another card, which is another Hydra head. So we'll take a total of 9 damage apiece. Second Sun Control will tap to protect Vehicle Rush, meaning that Second Sun Control and Vehicle Rush will go down to 7 each, while Counter Surge and Hazard Aggro go down to 6 each. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Hazard Aggro draws a Lightning Strike, and we will discard the Harsh Mentor. Second Sun Control draws a Field of Ruin, and we will discard the Aether Meltdown. Counter Surge draws an Hour of Glory. We'll discard the Gonti, Lord of Luxury. Vehicle Rush draws a Heart of Quran. We'll discard a Depala. We'll untap. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain. We'll play the Mountain. Second Sun Control draws a Renewed Faith. We'll play an Island. Counter Surge draws a Fatal Push. We'll play the Aether Hub. We'll get another counter. Vehicle Rush draws a Mountain. We'll play the Mountain. Spend 2 mana over here and play Carry Zev. We'll tap the Aether Hub and spend 1 energy for a black mana and cast Fatal Push, targeting the Savage Vigorhead. Savage Vigorhead dies. will each gain 4 life and draw a card, taking 2 of the decks up to 11 and the other 2 up to 10. We'll all draw a card. Hazard Aggro draws a Harsh Mentor. Second Sun Control draws a Plains. Counter Surge draws a Long Tusk Cub. Vehicle Rush draws a Lightning Strike. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. No new heads. We'll spend 3 mana over here to cast Depala. We'll tap to give her haste. We'll spend 2 mana over here to play another Long Tusk Cub. We'll attack one of the Hydra heads with the Long Tusk Cub. We'll have this Bomat Courier join that one to kill it off. We'll attack another one with this Bomat Courier and then another one with Depala. We'll exile cards. This one will get pumped by the Hunter and join that solo Bomat Courier, exiling another card. This will kill 3 regular Hydra heads. This will gain each player 6 life apiece to go up to 17 or 16, depending on which one they are. Then we'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are 2 new heads. And then we'll pass the turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will cast the topmost card, which is torn between heads. Tap up to 2 heads. They don't untap during the Hydra's next untap step. Torn between heads deals 5 damage to each player. So we will be taking 8 damage apiece. I think that's fine. Second Sun Control will tap the Protector to give Counter Surge protection. And so all the decks except Hazard Aggro will go down to 9, while Hazard Aggro will go down to 8. Well, we'll tap these 2 so they don't deal any extra damage, so we only take the 3, so that's 8 total. And then we'll use the Harvester at the end of the turn. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain, we'll discard the Mountain. Second Sun Control draws a Plains, we'll discard the Field of Ruin. Also at the end of the turn, we'll tap 2 mana and cycle the Renewed Faith to gain 2 life to go up to 11. We'll draw a Cast Out. Counter Surge will draw a Swamp, and we will discard the Dream Stealer. Vehicle Rush will draw a Pia Nalar, we'll discard the Pia Nalar. We'll untap. We'll draw. We get a Mountain over here. We'll play the Mountain. Second Sun Control will draw. We'll play a Plains. We should have got 2 energy from the Long Tusk Cub hitting last turn, so we should be at 3. We'll draw. We'll get a Blossoming Defense. We'll play a Swamp. Vehicle Rush draws. We get a Bomat Courier. We'll play the Dragon Skull Summit. It would come into play tapped, except that we have a Mountain, so it doesn't. We'll spend 1 mana to play a Bomat Courier, and then 3 more mana to play Pia Nalar. We'll tap the Warrior to give Pia Nalar haste. Pia Nalar is a 2/2 human artificer. When she enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. We'll use this token to represent the Thopter. We'll spend 2 mana over here to cast Harsh Mentor. We'll go to attacks. We'll attack one of the Hydra heads with Kari Zev and the 2 Power Monkey that comes out of it. We'll attack another Hydra head with the Bomat Courier, which will exile a card and it'll become 2 power. We'll attack that same Hydra head with the Long Tusk Cub to finish it off. We'll attack another Hydra head with the other Long Tusk Cubs, eating 2 energy to give it a +1/+1 counter, making it a 3/3. And this entire team will attack the Snapping Fang head. We'll exile 3. That will kill off the Fang head. That'll kill 3 Hydras, getting us 8 life apiece and drawing us a card. That'll take us to 16 or 17, depending on which deck you are. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain. Second Sun Control draws an Opt. Counter Surge draws a Long Tusk Cub. Vehicle Rush draws a Scrap Heap Scrounger. We'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. We have 2 new Hydra heads. Counter Surge will get 4 energy from the 2 Long Tusk Cubs hitting to go up to 5 energy. We will use one of those energies to make a green mana, and then we'll tap out to cast 2 more Long Tusk Cubs. Then we'll pass the turn to the Hydra. They'll fail to untap this turn because of the Torn Between Heads. They'll cast the topmost card, which is Hydra's Impenetrable Hide. Second Sun Control will tap, and then cast Supreme Will, countering Hydra's Impenetrable Hide. The Hydra will deal 2 damage to each player. We'll prevent 1 damage to Hazard Aggro, meaning that everybody will go down to 15. At the end of the turn, we will use the Irrigated Farmland for blue to opt. We'll take a look at this card. Censor, we'll leave it on top and draw it. Then we'll loop with the Harvester. Hazard Aggro draws a Lightning Strike, we'll discard a Mountain. Second Sun Control draws an Island, we'll discard the Island. Counter Surge draws a Scrap Heap Scrounger, we will discard the Blossoming Defense. Vehicle Rush draws an unlicensed disintegration. We will discard the Lightning Strike. We'll untap. We'll draw. Hazard Aggro draws a Sun-Scorched Desert. We'll play a Mountain. Second Sun's Control draws an Ipnu Revulet. We'll play the Ipnu Revulet. Counter Surge draws a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp. Vehicle Rush draws a Plains. We will play the Plains. We'll go to attack. All the Long Tusk Cubs will attack, and we'll pump 2 of them to use all their energy to make them 3/3s. We'll put 1 into one of the Hydra heads here. These 2 will go into another Hydra head. This will go into another Hydra head. And we'll send this Bowmat Courier into the last Hydra head. This kills the 3 remaining heads. We gain 6 life each, taking us all up to 21. We'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. We have 2 Ravenous Brute heads and a Hydra head. And then we'll go to the second main phase. We'll spend 2 mana here and cast a Scrap Heap Scrounger. We'll gain 8 energy from the attacking heads to go up to 12 energy. We'll spend 2 mana here to cast the Heart of Quran. We'll spend another 2 mana here to cast the Scrap Heap Scrounger. And then we'll pass the turn to the Hydra. The Hydra casts the topmost card, which is a Nectangle. If there are 5 or more heads on the battlefield, nothing. There aren't, so otherwise reveal the top card and cast that. It is a Hydra head. That comes into the battlefield. And then we're going to take a total of 6 damage apiece to go down to 15 each, except for Second Sun Control, who will go down to 16 because of the Protector. At the end of the turn, we will use the Harvester. Hazard Aggro will draw an Abrade, and we'll discard the Sun-Scorched Desert. Second Sun Control will draw an Irrigated Farmland, and we will discard a Plains. We'll also spend 4 mana to cast a Glimmer of Genius to draw 2, and we will get 1 energy, and then we will spend another mana to cycle a cast out. We'll get an island. Counter Surge draws a Swamp. We will discard the Gonti, Lord of Luxury. Vehicle Rush draws a Scrap Heap Scrounger. We'll discard the Spire of Industry. We'll untap. We'll draw. Hazard Aggro draws a Mountain. Play the Mountain. Second Sun Control draws an Irrigated Farmland. We'll play an island. Counter Surge draws. They get a Walk the Plank. Play a Swamp. Vehicle Rush draws. They get an Aether Sphere Harvester. We'll spend all of this mana here to cast the Scrap Heap Scrounger and the Aether Sphere Harvester. We will crew the Aether Sphere Harvester and give it haste. We also get 2 energy when it enters the battlefield. We will spend 6 energy to go down to 6 energy to put counters on all of the Long Tusk Cubs. And then we will attack the Ravenous Brute heads with the Long Tusk Cubs. We'll also spend 1 energy here to give the Aether Sphere Harvester lifelink, and we'll attack one of the Hydra heads with the Aether Sphere Harvester, and then we'll attack the other one with the Scrap Heap Scrounger. We'll gain 3 life from the lifelink to go up to 23. We'll defeat all of the Hydra heads, giving each player 8 life apiece, bringing Hazard Aggro and Second Sun Control up to 24, Counter Surge up to 23, and Vehicle Rush up to 31. We'll also draw 2 cards each. Hazard Aggro draws a Shock and a Mountain. Second Sun Control draws an Island and a Fumigate. Counter Surge draws a Glint Sleeve Siphoner and a Verdurous Gear Hulk. Vehicle Rush draws a Plains and an Inspiring Vantage. We'll play the Plains. Then we'll reveal 8 cards to see if there are any new heads. There's 1 new head in the Shrieking Titan head. At the beginning of the Hydra's end step, each player discards a card. I don't think we want to do that, so we will spend 7 mana to cast 2 Lightning Strikes and a Shock targeting the Shrieking Titan head. That'll kill the Shrieking Titan head, and then we'll each get 4 life apiece and draw a card, taking Second Sun Control and Hazard Aggro to 28, Counter Surge to 27, and Vehicle Rush to 35. We'll draw, we get a Shock, we get a Glimmer of Genius, we get a Foul Orchard. Also, we should be getting 8 more energy to go to 14 energy. We get a Bowmat Courier. We'll cast the Bowmat Courier. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are no new heads, and the Challenger decks soundly defeat the Hydra twice in a row. I think that these decks are significantly stronger than the Hydra can handle, and in fact, I think we're more limited by how many heads we are allowed to kill a turn as opposed to how many heads there are. And so once we were able to establish a board presence, we just could wipe out the heads every turn easily. And so that is the end of that. Let me know what your thoughts were about the games. If I missed any rules or if I made any play errors, let me know so that I can get better at this. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of these videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.